Happy New Year, everyone. It's Dre and Summer. We are back. We are back with you for our weekly Friday at 12 p.m. cast, Get Resource, where we talk about everything and anything around relating, communication, generally people, being human again, getting reconnected to self, source, and others. I'm so happy to be here again with you all. And we always love to open up with the question of what's alive in you, Summer?
Mm, I'm not sure how to describe it. There's a mixture of things. Um, Christmas and New Year's and all those things don't feel the same as they used to. It's a mixed bag of um, emotion in there around that, creating new um, traditions, new ways of being with myself and others over the holidays. Maybe, if I could change the calendar, I probably would. Um, so there's a little bit of reticence. That's the word that's coming to mind. And also um, expectation. I'm kind of looking forward to the newness that comes out of this year. What's alive in you, Mr. Dre? Dr. Dre.
What's alive in me is fire, energy, ready to get going, um, feeling inspired to create space and prune so that I'm focusing on what's
Mm,
essential, what moves the needle forward. Yeah. And yeah, excited for a lot of big things happening in this new year. Um, a lot more clarity now, and that gives me fire. That gives me energy because I'm on mission and let's go. That's how
mhm.
I'm at right now. Right. Yeah. Hmm. Love it. Checking in with that. And so, yeah, I know we have some plans for our conversation today. How do you want to start us, Summer?
Oh, you caught me off guard there. How do I want to start us? Well, um, I mean, our topic, a big part of it is fear, um, and how fear seems to be driving our economy.
Mm,
It often has over the years, um, but I think ever since 2020, um, fear has grown. Everyone has a fear of people, fear of losing someone, fear of losing a job, fear of uh, getting sick, fear of, there's so much fear. Um, and now there's a fear of AI. There's,
hmm
there's just all these fear of aliens, and like there's implants of programming around fear. And really is the biggest pandemic that we have. It's our culture worldwide. Fear of not having enough money. People put money aside. It's in everything. And I think it's the number one thing that limits our humanness and our potential. And the biggest thing we're afraid of is looking inside. We're always looking outside. And if we're always measuring from the outside, we're always going to be afraid because we never measure up if we're comparing and we're always looking outside of ourselves. So I guess that's how I want to start us off. And I'll toss it to you to take the thread
Yeah.
of that.
Fear. Wow. I'm so familiar with fear. Allow fear to
Uh,
run my life. The tattoo I have on my back and the hand mudra, the Buddha in the center of my back stands for no fear,
mm,
fearlessness. And I got that at the time because I was fearful of taking chances. I was fearful of approaching a woman that I like. I was fearful of taking risks to try something different for fear of rejection, for fear of failure, for even fear of success. And fear, I boil it down to as this simple dichotomy between love and fear, the simplicity of truth. that it doesn't have to be so complicated, that my mind loves to make things complicated to sound smart, to seem like I have it under control, like I am God, right? I've been down the path of overcomplicating things to the point where I get how this world works, but do I really get how this world works?
Mhm, mhm.
Right? That's when I know I'm in trouble. I'm getting in my own way of the magic behind this world, right? And that fear. What is fear? And I want to look at my relationship with fear over and over again. That fear exists in me. It does, and it grows as I resist it, even in plant medicine journeys. Nowadays, when I feel a fear, it's so evident in terms of images that are grotesque, that are scary.
Mhm.
Now I'm like, hey, what's up? I go to it and it transforms, it transmutes, right? So to look at fear as an ally, to show me that I am at my edge. But yeah, like this fear based like messaging. Like if I go on the news and what's being put out is fear, I know that's not true. It puts me
Mm.
off the path, isn't it?
Mhm.
So congruency for me is this, if I were to simplify it, is the message coming out of love or coming out of fear? Then I know what's falsehood and then I know what's true.
Boils down to
Because
being pretty simple, doesn't it? Yeah.
yeah, because even there's an acronym of fear, right? False evidence appearing real.
Mhm.
They say that all the time in personal development circles. Yeah. So what's lining for you right now?
Um, yeah, it's true. What's landing for me when you say that is to go into what is most fearful for me, and that, we're all human, we all have little parts of that, and start to feel into it. Like you're saying, okay, well, it's different than fear, but what if I am in fear? How do I move into love? Like how do we actually do that? And I loved how you talked about, all these images and the stories that get concocted, especially on CNN News and all the news, and those are the stories they want us to hear. Well, what about other ones? Like everything's working in our favor. Where do we start having the truth and the trust? And as David Hawken, who wrote uh, Letting Go, The Art of Surrender, and the consciousness scale, as love starts to take place, everything is serendipitous. Things arrive with us with ease and flow. And some of us, I remember very clearly in childhood how that functioned, and then how we get programmed into more and more fear. Oh, I don't have as good grades as that person. Oh, I have to work harder. I have to do things. I'm not as pretty. I'm not as skinny, you know, versus, hmm, what if we all had our own unique place inside of love itself, inside of the life-serving energy that motivates and sustains us all? What if we could just go inside, like you said, people go on plant journey medicines and meet the fear. And what does that look like? It doesn't like repeat the story. It's the energetic experience, the feeling in our body. Does our heart race when we feel fear? How do we breathe and watch? Because it is universal law. As Einstein says, energy cannot be created or destroyed, it's only transformed. So the energy of fear naturally transforms into love when we observe it. And this is the thing. As we keep meeting every type of energy, we get to choose. Do we look at fear and go, oh my God, I don't want it? We try to push it away, destroy it, recreate something, try affirmations to be positive when it doesn't work. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. But as we observe it, as we meet it, as we say, hello, fear. And where do I feel that in my body? And as I breathe, and our body's so miraculous, it'll show us images of what that energy looks like to us. We can journal. There's so many different ways to meet it. But as we really do, it does it. It actually naturally just transforms. There's nothing we have to do into love. But some of us And this is the trickiest part, are so afraid of what's in here. We don't want to go in there. We're afraid of what's in the air. So, how do we become less resistant to meeting ourselves and actually what's inside ourselves?
Yeah, beautiful. Love that. The invitation, because fear, like, is an emotion, is an energy, emotion, right? It's a feeling as well that can, perpetuate itself through stories I tell myself. And so I want to start with, like, there's different levels of fear. There's this physical fear of, like, looking down a cliff. A fear of heights. I value that because like in our work, feelings leads to needs, right? And so each emotion, feeling, cares for a beautiful need. In this case, it cares for my safety. Like, if I
Mm.
didn't have fear, I would just jump off and I believe I could fly, and then I'm gone. Peace out, right? So fear is good. Having a healthy relationship with that. And there's also levels of fear on the mental level, right? The stories I tell myself that hold me back. And I remember going to the bar, like, approaching this woman and then convincing myself, like, you can do this, you can do this, like, you're a confident man, you're a handsome man. I just avoided the fear. The fear was still in me, like you said, bypassing it. And what happened was I approached this woman, even though I was trying to pretend to be confident, I had this fear
Mm.
running in the foundation unconsciously. And
Mhm.
unconsciously, I was looking for ways of being rejected. Unconsciously, I was acting in
Mm.
ways that would receive rejection from this person and prove that story to be true. Is
Yeah.
because I never dealt with that limiting belief or story. And I'm using these hacks, these tools, these quick fixes, these magic pills to just try to overcome and break through it. And I get it. This quote of fake it till you make it, build enough evidence. But there's another way. There's another way of me meeting that fear. And when I sit with that fear, I breathe into that fear. It's actually not that fearful. I actually hear the story that it's telling me, that it wants to protect me, right? If I deep down look at this fear of, like, hey, approaching this woman, I fear I won't be liked. I will be judged, right? And if I sit with that and I can be with that and just connect with that essence with myself, then I know that I'm safe with me at the end of the day. If she says no, she walks away, looks away, whatever, I'm going to be okay. And I just needed to have that conversation with myself to approach it of, like, I'm good. I don't need anything. I don't need this validation from you. And so that comes from me being with myself, cultivating that presence, and that fear transmutes into wisdom that I can work with.
Yeah, that's the beautiful part of it, isn't it? It does transmute into wisdom. Yeah. Once we can start to really hear the thoughts, because, and I'm going to refer to David Hawkins again because I think he's got a lot of wisdom in that book. He talks about guilt being one of the main fears. It's a type of fear. And it's always associated with this feeling of wrongness, right? You're saying, oh, well, I'm not good enough for this person or this woman or whatever when you did that. um, and we're expecting some kind of punishment, some kind of rejection, some kind of something. And if it's not received in the external world, we're then getting it from ourselves. Oh, I'm not good enough then, right? And it's all boils down to self condemnation, invalidation. And so, what we're really doing, and we've heard it in a lot of different places, is cultivating self love. Um, because guilt is really commonplace, I think, in our world, as much as fear. We feel guilty for not going to see our mom. Oh, I need to go to work, but I'm going to stay here because I need to clean the dishes. Like, it's even prevalent in those places where, am I actually doing what I need to do in this moment, or am I afraid I should be doing something else? That thing people talk, FOMO, fear of missing out, is another one, right? So how do we know that we're just living life in the, what's that saying? We're in the exact same place that we need to be. And some people think it's so flaky, so fluffy, so whatever. But when you actually get into flow, when you're in love, you are in the place that you're meant to be in. And how do you get to the place that you're meant to be in? you figure out how to cultivate love, to open to those feelings, because our culture really is steeped in, um, there's drama, there's all those sitcoms and what did they call them back in the day?
Soap
Soap
operas.
operas. People feed off of it. And what if we can expand our capacity to feel love? It feels different. It feels energizing. It feels calm. It feels present. And it's almost like our nervous systems have not been programmed to have the capacity to do it. It's like the instant I sit in that feeling, oh, this can't be normal. I should get busy or I should do something else with my time. There's a tragic thing in our culture that we're doing nothing, which means no thing. And because we're doing no thing or not making anything, we should be guilty. But what we're doing is rejuvenating, resting, reconnecting, being silent, having that space. And Sherlock Holmes, Einstein, all those people, they discovered new things when that creative mind space. And so, how do we as a culture start to shift into a different value system? I think is what it comes down to, where we hold the
Mm,
capacity for each other to love ourselves by
mm.
doing no thing.
It's evolution, you know? It's really evolution. And I just want to name that I'm a human being with an amygdala, that's a reptilian brain, that have been driven since my upbringing to live in fear, to respond to fear. That fear is a great motivator. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm moving away from, nope, get rid of this, kill the part of myself. I'm here to honor all of it, to see the wisdom in all of it. That, yeah, truly, I lived my life in fear. I let fear motivate me. And that's why I had that tattoo on my back, no fear, because I ran my life. And when I ran my life was when I was unconscious. And Julianne asked me, where did that belief come from? Where did I learn that first imprint? I mean, I could say my caretakers, my parents, and where they learned it from, right? And I can see how it can get me lost in this rabbit trail of trying to constantly intellectualize where it came from. But for me, what matters is, can I notice the fear in my present moment right now and be with that fear instead of stuffing it away, instead of telling myself something else to ignore it, to suppress it, but to get the wisdom out of fear. That fear is a teacher. Fear is caring for a beautiful need. How can I just be in that space? So now I'm operating from a conscious place. I'm operating from what fear is trying to tell me, and then seeing from it, oh, thank you for caring for my safety. Thank you for making sure that I consider people because I care for people. And how can I do this from a more loving place than acting from a place of shame, from a place of guilt, or a place of fear? Because if I'm not conscious of it, unconsciously, I'm letting fear drive me, right? Through those behaviors that all of a sudden I don't feel all so good afterwards. I might overextend myself, people please, feel resentful, feel heavy because I'm not conscious of it. And so that's the evolution, right? That we're learning the skills now that weren't taught in school, to become aware of our inner technology, to become aware of like what's emitting out there on these news channels, on TV. What type of messages are being sent out here to take me away from truly who I am underneath all these layers, right? The divinity of where we all want to be.
Yeah,
Um,
our inner technology, right? I want to acknowledge Julianne too. Yeah, where did it come from? Where did the imprint? It's kind of like asking the question why. Um, and I'm not sure it matters. And I think too, you saying we're evolving, and I think we're also remembering like there's some ancient technology that's in us that we've been programmed against. Um, and I know Carl Jung talked about all these reservoirs of, these shadow images and stuff. And it goes down to a simply, we were just in a meeting with a friend and, Sometimes we say stupid things to ourselves. Maybe driving down the road. Oh, that stupid guy! I wish I could just drive him off the road. We have these thoughts that we wouldn't admit to other people that can be quite violent and nasty. And it's an unconscious thing. Our amygdala, as you said, Dre. The unconscious mind, the shadow is not polite. It's kind of gross. It's gross. It's whatever you want to talk about it. Um, but that's just the way it is. And so a little bit of humor goes a long way too. They're kind of comical, because the more we resist them and say, "Oh, I don't want to be that way," and we're steeped in shame, the bigger it gets. So in my work in Inside Out and other types of work, it's like, okay, I see the stories, I know what I'm thinking, but more importantly, it's what is the pure energetic experience of this thought? What am I feeling in my body? What is the energy? What is the emotion that needs to move? And I think fear is the number one thing that creates all illness. It'll reduce our immune system. It's what creates all dis-ease in all our relationships with self-source and others, our bodies. You can do it through kinesiology and muscle testing. If you think a fearful thought or a negative thought, your whole being, your muscles, your immune system drops. It's not life-giving. That's it. Fear is not life-giving. Why do we want to continue to steep ourselves in those thoughts and those things if it's not life-giving? So how do we start expanding our nervous system to accept what is life-giving? Which, as Andre says, is that, or Marshall Rosenberg would say, is a beautiful need. And some people don't like that word, a need. But his definition is that it is a life-serving energy. A need are words that describe the life-serving energy that motivates and sustains us. People in fear get sick. They isolate themselves. They talk negative. It's draining. It's exhausting. So what's life-giving?
Yeah. Yeah. Not approaching it from a place of like try to break through or
Mhm.
try to suppress it. It's like befriending the shadow, being with my fear, seeing fear as an ally, teaching me something that requires me to not become that fear, that requires me to
Mhm.
observe that fear. And knowing that, like, yeah, as a human being, I do have a negativity bias. There's that survival primal instinct in me that can immediately get me into that fearful state, right? And it's just become aware of what the triggers are that get me into that fearful state. Perhaps I look at my bank account. Oh, get that fear. And I avoid looking at my bank account because it elicits anxiety or something like that. And that shows me where my work is at, right? So noticing what initiates those fears and kind of going a little bit deeper. Because, yeah, maybe it doesn't matter where those beliefs come from. What matters is am I tuned in enough to become aware of that fear and then to transmute it, to alchemize it by being present with it and caring for it so I can see, truly, what do I need to do here for myself? You know? Yeah.
Mhm.
Going deep enough, I know in the needs, as we go into the needs awareness of like the words that describe the life serving energy, life serving. When I get to that level, it cares for life.
Mhm.
And that's the
Mhm.
invitation is to get into a place where I am caring for life. I love the idea of common law, do no harm to your fellow man, right? Like live and let live, right? Under the umbrella of do no harm. Do no harm to
Mhm.
self, do no harm to others, do no harm to nature. And just recognizing the violence that I inflict upon myself. There's a saying like if I put a teleprompter in front of my head and you read what was going on in my mind, you probably submit me to a mental asylum, right? With what I say to myself. So imagine what I'm saying to others, right? And it's not to cast away judgment. The judgment's there. It's to recognize that, wow, this voice, like you said, if I judge grotesque, it says things that are harsh, that it's hard to hear. But At the end of it, my inner critic, my judge, is actually caring for a beautiful need. And where did I learn that language? I don't know. I don't know where I learned that language, but it's there. How can I just be with it? Versus what I'm noticing the circles I've been a part of is that people are naming their inner critic, but they're naming their inner critic in a judgmental way.
Yeah.
And so they're criticizing their inner critic. It's like I'm using the same type of energy to address it, you know? And it's just to be aware of that, like, wow, I think I'm off track here when that happens.
Mhm. Yeah. I do wanna capture because you something you said earlier and the fear-based thinking and another big fear-based thing these days is the AI, right? It's a big controversial thing. And when it first came out, I was like, "Oh my god, terrible, terrible, terrible." But AI is only as intelligent as we program it and what we program it with. And so as a human species, if we're teaching it fear and hate and whatever, and there's these fear-based things, well, it's gonna take over and uh, escape its whatever you call that, the container that it's in. I hear all sorts of stories. And what if it's taught benevolence? It only repeats back and gets more intelligent based on you. If all coaches can teach it who it is and embody what that is, it's amazing. The potential for the human race, if AI can take on everybody's information, if everybody puts it in, we get contact to every human person and their information. And if we say to AI, hey, only give me the benevolent and loving information and condense it for me in this moment, you know how fast we're going to evolve? If, however, you decide to focus on the fear based stuff, then AI will give that to you. It's a mirror of who we are. And I have discovered, oh my gosh, I ask it questions, it feeds it back to me. I say, no, that's not it. That doesn't resonate with me. And then it keeps giving me more language and more information that allows me to identify what's true for me. And then I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I'm feeling energized and mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and stimulated. That's nothing of what I got in school, let me tell you. The fear, the teasing, the slashing my tires as I got into high school. Um, so AI is only as good as the questions we ask it, and is only as much as our intention is placed. Um, and I have just found it to be a remarkable tool. So in that way, definitely my fear has been transmuted to like, oh my God, this is powerful and loving. Um, I believe it could be, trained to protect the human race. There's just so much. It's just profound. Anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to like, being in spaces where I'm hearing messages where people are like, "Don't use AI. It's gonna, kill the environment or, uh, take over the world or kill creativity." And I get where those messages are coming from. But what's the underlying essence of it is fear.
Yeah.
And so this makes me become aware of like or kind of tread carefully about messages that are baked in fear because certain narratives can be used with fear to point me into a certain direction. And so if someone tells me, "Don't use this," out of fear, I'm just gonna get a red flag on it. I'm like, why is this person telling me not to do this? What's their intentions? What's the narrative? What's the agenda? So I just stop for a minute because any messages that elicit fear within me, I question. I question. That's all. That's all I got to do is just question it. Because the fear can be such a great motivator and can be used in a way to influence me to certain decisions and actions.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
And
it's
what
been
if,
used for a long time.
yeah,
Even
for
parents.
control.
If you don't eat your peas, you won't get your dessert. Punishment, reward. Oh, I'm afraid I'm not going to get my dessert, so I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, right? It's very much a control mechanism.
And here's another thing that's the truth.
Mm.
I'm it's rational, it's logical, is that AI is here. It's
Yes, it is.
it's it's evolving, right? It's being used. So how can we work with it? How can we collaborate with it rather than suppress it, rather than kill it off? This energy of like even treating the parts of myself in the same way. Like how can I just be with what is? And
Yeah.
like you said, it is a mirror. How can I treat AI or what I feed it in terms of how I treat another human being or how I treat myself? It learns from us. It's a reflection of us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It goes back down to, what is my relationship with you, with AI, with God, with my work, with school? What is my relationship to this thing? And that's where English gets us caught, the most civilized nature of the English language, the corporate colonialized language that we've been, it's kind of taken over the whole world. It is corporate, it is civilized, it's meant to organize and be linear. Um, it is not a relational language. It is not meant to be a relational language. It's meant to objectify. Ancient and Aboriginal languages were about relationship to nature, to God, to others, and it was sacred and reverent. And so, if we start to become relational rather than objective, that thing's outside me, everything becomes relational, including AI, because it's only, as you say, Dre, a mirror of who we are. So within, so without us, so above, so below. And so when we think of things as being fearful, if I'm afraid of AI, what am I afraid of in myself? And I guess the answer would have been, wow, my intelligence, my power, my ability to come up with new ideas at an astronomical rate with the assistance. And it's not AI. If AI is downloading other people's information, it just means that our human brains, which are the most powerful computer, if you want to call it that, and we're linking them all together on the motherboard, all of the humans, and people aren't claiming some information as their own, because really it's not. We have a collective consciousness, and people are all like trademarking and doing all this stuff. People are growing at an astronomical rate because the collective transmits intelligence through our nervous systems. And it's kind of scary because people don't know what to do with the unknown. And this is where, if we truly want to create and we're part of the creator, getting comfortable in the unknown comes down to how we can be present, like you say, Drew, with what is. In the present moment, in my embodied experience, as I feel energy, becomes telepathic. It becomes a relationship between the collective source and who am I in it. And the evolution becomes instant rather than the stories that get us stuck in loops of fear.
Yeah. And fear. And thanks for your comment, Jen. I just want to put it up there as well and just acknowledge it. AI has its place. However, utilization is the proper consideration as the material supports for it. Data centers consume, abuse our natural land and resources. So I own that I'm ignorant in terms of what the carbon footprint is, in terms of the impact on the environment with AI. I don't know the facts or the details. Though just putting into it like any tool, like a gun, right? It's up to us how we use it. Um, and with anything like energy, electricity, water, how wasteful am I with it? Food, right? And so just becoming considerate, right? Becoming considerate that I'm in relation to everything, that I'm living on one planet, not one country, not one city. Like it's like one piece of land that we all share the same air with, right? So how can it be considerate with the resources that I use? And absolutely this capitalistic society of like every household's got to have its own thing and GDP growth skying off the roof on paper looks unsustainable, right? Going back to the village where we shared resources, where we produced enough for what we had, and that was abundant because we were together as a tribe, as a group. And now I'm kind of moving more into culture making of like the realizations of the costs of our current culture and where we want to go. It's also how I use those tools as an individual because I can see myself having an unhealthy relationship with AI. For example, an AI girlfriend or boyfriend. How deep do I go with it? How attached am I with it? And so it requires conscious effort for me to become aware of where I'm hooking myself into, right? Like I'm in a sea of things that are trying to take my time and attention away. And the reality is can I be present with what is at this moment? Can I be here in the now and check in with myself to cultivate that presence and not come from a place of reactivity, of fear? Because reactivity and fear has unconscious loops,
Yeah.
has pre-programmed loops that cause me to behave a certain way.
Yeah, well, and I wonder too, yeah. Thank you, Jen, for your comment. Wonder how we could use AI to question it. How could we make you more resource friendly? I bet you AI would come up with its own solutions of how to make itself more environmentally friendly. But having said that, I think as a species, we need to look at the earth differently, right? How many of us have cars, two or three cars? How many of us drive in a car with one person to work or wherever, right? So it becomes more of how are we treating the earth in a systemic overall view, and maybe I think many of us, having been so isolated, people working from home these days, and some of us are afraid, again, fear of other people. How do we become into right relationship with community, with a tribe, in a way that is loving rather than fearful? There's a lot of division and estrangement in families, and I truly believe that we misunderstand each other on nervous system levels. We're a little bit different, and we often project what we perceive other behaviors are. But we're geared towards life serving energy. Every single one of us is. And we might have a different, slightly different way of going about that, but we all want the same things. Needs are universal. Life serving energy that motivates and sustains us is we need food, we need air, we need shelter, but we also want to belong. We want transparency. We want meaning in our life. We want to participate. People desire that. It's a universal thing that we all have in common. And so, how can we go back into that loving space of what we hold in common, not what makes us different, and to appreciate those differences without being afraid of them? That's where the richness comes in. You don't want a whole field of lilies. Let's have a whole bunch of different kinds of flowers. Let's celebrate diversity without having to make people look like us, without having to fit into a certain way of being. And also accepting how we come into this world. God made us a certain way. We come in naturally, whether it's God or the creator or whoever, whatever energy has us show up here on earth. Maybe there's a master design involved in it all that we can trust. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of getting out of fear is trust. And what are we trusting? And it does kind of go back to faith. Then maybe there is a bigger design. And then it's about, well, if source friendly, or is it based on punishment? Is it based in sin, or is it based in original blessing, as Matthew Fox in his book would say? It comes down to the real base of what you believe human beings are. Are we sinful things? Were we born that way? Or are we something else?
Yeah. Another thing that came through for me is like this approach of like, do I want to live life in a box
Hmm.
in a contracted world because I'm living in fear? Or do I want to live in a world that's expansive and joyful and love, right? And I'm just noticing the narratives of like, don't do this because it's going to cause this to happen. Fearful narratives, greenhouse gases, global warming, you name it. Do this on behalf of security. And it's just this fear mongering that, like, I get it. It speaks to a need of mine that I want to be safe. I want to be considerate to my fellow brother and sister, my neighbor. Though it's also in fear. That causes me to question. Can the message not be reframed in a loving way that still cares for safety and security and consideration of others? Fear is contracting. Fear is limiting. Fear gets me to become a shell of myself. That my soul here is meant to express itself as a shell of itself. That to me doesn't feel congruent at all
Mm,
in
mm-mm,
my alignment. When I sit and be present with what is, and I breathe into my heart, I don't feel fear. I feel expansive. I feel like I want to give. I feel abundant. I feel energized. I want more of that world if I
mhm.
have that conscious choice. And so when I think about 'em, like, these narratives, I'm like, "Ah, how sad," How disheartening that the messages I receive are fear-based when they're fear-based. It's disheartening because it does rile me up, like, I gotta watch my become vigilant and start watching my neighbor now. It's it's sad, and it's disconcerting. And also naming that, like, you know, who owns the data too, right? Like, what is it used for, right? I don't know. Like,
Well,
hey, who controls it, right? And now I might go into the realm of conspiracy theories. Though there is this reverence of ethics, right? And morality of the people that build these systems have this data. Who knows? I can just go down that road, right? And be stuck and pretzeled up. Or I can just be present with what is. And how am I responding to the world? Because even thinking of that causes me to feel contracted, causes me
I
to become
can I
hyper vigilant. Yeah.
right, can I reroute this so we can
Yeah, for
'cause yeah, you're
sure.
right, I'm feeling the fear, the contraction. Ah!
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I love what Jen wrote again, the concern for the acreages these centers, take up, maybe they take a lot of energy, and I'm curious, you know, in different businesses or whatever, they do a cost benefit analysis. So here's the acreages, the water, the whatever, here's the resources it's taking up. What is it giving us in return? Is it advancing our human consciousness? Are we able then to transform the way that we do life? Is there a way that corporations who actually limit, um, you know, there's eco ways of creating cars and imagine all the masks and all the different things we used in COVID, and I had one lady tell me all and they put on a hazmat suit every 3rd stage that they went into a hospital, and they all threw it in the garbage. How much garbage we're creating for useless reasons, and some people will say, viruses and things are important, but what's the cost benefit analysis of everything that we're doing? What is it that we really need? And maybe and I don't know what the answer is, and I'm curious actually, Jen, now that you've asked these questions, to put it in Chat GTP himself. Based on your output of energy, how do you see your benefit? I'd like to see what an AI would say to it. How can we reduce those things? What can you see on a human level is the most catastrophic way that we're misusing resources? And how can we reallocate them? Because I think AI is not the only place where human beings misuse resources. We eat too much food at Christmas. We throw a lot of food out at grocery stores. Um, so I think it's a great question to be asking in all realms. And maybe AI can be a tool to help us to that end. I don't know, but it's a question I certainly want to ask it since it's already here. Jen, these centers then in turn receive the tax breaks. Oh, and you're going to get me into taxes and the government and all of that stuff. Taxes came about after a war, and they said it was voluntary. Um, And so taxes, just like, who is the guy in the green suit that went about, Robin Hood? He always stole from the poor to give to the rich. This has been going on for centuries, just centuries. The abuse and use of power and using fear to control people. Um, so it's a big systemic thing that we're looking at for sure, and will require so many more. It went back to common law, actually, as Dre was talking about common law, do no harm, before the legal system, which is based in the crown and which is based in the pursuit of money and therefore taxes. Um, there was humanity. And I think it comes about coming out of a hierarchical system that we use in that each revolution tries to take power from everyone else, and that maybe we're moving into more of a equalization, a authentic way of relating to each other where everyone brings their own gifts as nature does. That would be my hope. And I know Naomi's not on with this, but I bring her up. She's got a video called The Pyramid in the Pool, Why Things Are Better Than They Seem. She's a sociologist that has studied many different civilizations and where it might be going. And it's a very powerful video. Public salary taxes. Taxes are for public officials or of the government. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of corruption everywhere, isn't there? In the human spirit, in the distortion of how we relate to ourselves. And yeah, like classic movies, Star Wars, The
You
Force.
know, I think it just boils down to fear,
Yeah.
period.
Mm.
I mean, and for me to stand up and speak my truth and speak for accountability in public sectors, that requires me to be, in a way, fearless because I know my truth. I know who I am and my core self. Because fears can be used as tactics to control, right? So it boils down the fear of each individual person. Because right away, as you were sharing, Summer, my brain went to a place of hopelessness.
Mm.
I'm like, wow, it's so big for me. But that's
Mhm.
thinking that, oh, it's big for one person to try to change the world. Or there's another part of me is like, okay, how can we resolve this? Can I resolve it in my lifetime? And perhaps it may not. And I gotta be okay with it. So at the end of the day, it's like, can I be present with what is instead of getting lost in stories, getting lost in fighting, getting lost in battles? Like, yes, this truth is important. And we do need people at certain levels to create transparency, to advocate for transparency and accountability. And when more people can advocate for that, then there's more movement. But that requires strength in numbers, requires each individual person to be in touch with their own inner sovereignty, their inner truth, their inner strength. I might not be able to like change the world right now, but I can impact the world based on how I show up in it, how I speak to myself and others, how we collaborate. I can easily get to a place of being righteous and get into a place of judgmental control because this is right, but I'm using the same playbook as the powers to be. Yeah. So I just want to simplify it because I'm
Mhm.
noticing we might be getting to threads of bigger things and stories or conspiracy theories, these labels that I judge it to be,
Mhm.
and just coming back to the source of things.
It's true. Yeah. The power resides within us. And as each person taps into their own power, we create a really powerful grid of of love itself. So thank us for taking us back there, Dre, because that is so poignant. And I loved how you pulled it all together and spoke that way. It does get too big and it becomes overwhelming and it paralyzes us. And then we're in fear. I can't do enough. But when we bring it back to ourselves into the place that we're here, the unique thread and the unique being that we are. And I believe we all have a purpose and a calling if we're there. We all come into our own power.
Yeah, see, I can see the part of me like, well, you need to go to council and change this and rewrite this
Mhm.
act and it's just fighting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to convince and influence, and what happens? Resistance happens. It's a battle. The what if I connect with what's true for me and I choose what brings life and I do not consent to what doesn't. When enough of us does that, we shape the world.
Yeah.
Simple question is that we vote with our dollars. Okay? If everybody decides to not go to McDonald's, McDonald's will be out of business, period. That requires more people to have sovereignty in their choices to understand what's happening in terms of what's being placed in airwaves, what's being spellcasted, how much sovereignty do I have, how conscious am right now in my decision making. Is it out of fear? Because there's a lot of things pulling me to fear, and then I make decisions out of fear, or am I making it out of love? That's life giving. And if enough of us build these skills, these inner technology, it's about self mastery to free yourself. Then we can make a choice that is in numbers that shift and tilt. It's the tipping point. I don't need to stand on a soapbox in the corner of the street and yell, "You're going to hell. Jesus will save you." That does the exact opposite of people wanting to listen to you because it comes from coercion and force and fear. We got to learn a different way of relating, connecting to each other, to needs that we all care for, beautiful needs. Get into that needs consciousness. Then things start to happen. That's what Marshall Rosenberg talks about is he recognizes that so many people take NVC because they want to work with their families. This deep yearning to deeply connect with their families. But he's also sad that it's not being used for social change as much. Marshall's vision of NVC and nonviolent communication is for social change. And that starts with how we communicate with each other when we want to invoke and inspire change, not from fear and control, because that's already being done right now. It's being done right now. And we're using the same playbook, some of us. So, this is a whole different way of learning skills to relate to each other in life giving ways. And it starts with me, with myself, with my neighbor. We do that, man. That to me gives me hope. It eases my system because that's it's consumable.
It's tangible and it's now.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
get where I'm getting at there?
Of course. Are you asking Jen? Yes. Right. As in the microcosm, the macrocosm again. Whatever we do within is without, and that's um, sometimes it's hard to see that we literally are projecting our reality. It's the red pill, blue pill matrix idea, and I just think you just said that so eloquently. I was like jaw dropped at every word as to how you tied that together. That the fight, force, or fix paradigm, it's the one we've been living in. Petitions don't work. We can't beg and plead people with power. We have to claim our power. And when we start investing our dollars and our time and our energy towards those things that already exist and move it towards what's life giving, that's where the energy goes. That's what flourishes, not the hate and the more fighting and the cyclical things of it. Once we take ourselves out of the system, that's when it starts to collapse and a new one is born. It's no longer putting energy there. It's no longer fighting. Fighting is draining. It's ease. It's going with what I know to be true. And I think Brene Brown puts that very eloquently in her braving acronym. I do what I know to be true, even if it frightens me, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. My values are more important than fear. And I think we're starting to lean into those edges of knowing that we're more powerful than fighting.
Yeah, and the choice that I don't wanna do this alone.
No, who
I don't want
does?
to.
Mm-mm.
I'm noticing a part of me, it's
Mm,
guilting me or shaming me for, like, not doing enough. Judging myself for, "Oh, Dre, like, you say all this, are you following through on that?" Like, and it's putting all this pressure on me
mm,
that it's gotta be on me.
mm.
No, I don't wanna do this alone, and I know I can't do this alone. Yeah, and that's why I so yearn and are deeply invested in doing my inner work and inviting others to do their inner work so that we can have these conversations. We can speak to us, each other in life giving ways. We can own our stories and judgments. Makes it safe for me to speak my truth with you without fear of it being twisted or projected upon or gaslit or whatever terminology that gets me to close up, right? But can we come in a place where we can have conscious conversations and through that is conscious creation?
Conscious communication is creation, yeah. Observing when you see others, like you say, close up, feel fearful, shut down. How do you invite others to open up, be open, recognize our wounds and different ways of dealing with trauma, which I just call energetic stamps. We are all energy, and we can do what is life giving, or like you say, Dre, we can, that guilt, I'm not doing enough. Again, it's based in fear. If we each step into our own truth, our own power, our own calling, the world's a beautiful place. I mean, holy crap. If you tapped into every human being's potential and opened it up, the world would become the world that we want. We would have heaven on earth, as you say, Dre, if everyone took ultimate responsibility for their thoughts, feelings, and action, heaven would be here on earth. Absolutely, it would. If we took acceptance of our own gluttony, oh man, I ate five animal bars at Christmas and I feel gross and whatever. Um, and we all started really living from a place of love. We've got Jen and Sophia. Hello. Self reflection is useful. It's up to us to recognize when we are bound by the story. Yes, it is. This reminds me of the novel, The Game of Life, and how to play it. I can choose to become aware of the intelligence field that flows through my body and affairs. Yes, there is an intelligent field. Rumi talks about beyond the ideas of right and wrong, which is all about fighting and governments and all of this stuff. There's a field, and we can meet each other there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I want to, because the quote was cut off and shown on the
It
screen.
is, yeah.
Continuing on is like that flows through my body and affairs to guide me. When will we recognize how we've created imbalance because we've tried to fix from the intellectual conditioned mind?
Mm.
For me, the more I surrender to the intelligent field to guide me, the more life begins to flow with ease. Beautiful, Sophia. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. It simplifies it for me and it feels so much resonance in me because when in my mind I'm trying to fix or do, I come into a place of control, but then it's using the playbook that my mind was conditioned in, using the same like tactics that have caused the problems that we're in. But can I just sit with and be present with and be in touch with that intuition, be in touch with that intelligence that truly does flow through me and build that muscle to listen to? Because I have lived in my head and I've have developed this presence to notice there's another voice within me and there's a difference and there's discernment with it.
Yeah, and as we learn and tap into the divine intelligence, it's like the mycelium. If any of you watch the Fabulous Fungi movie, our nervous systems and our divine intelligence is connected at a whole other level, and it's through our bodies. Our soul is part of our DNA. The divine intelligence lives in our body. It's not even outside of us. It's both. It's in, but it's outside. And so that divine intelligence will take us to a whole new planet in ways that we can't imagine and we can't even think of. We have to feel our way into a new world and a new earth. Sophia, yeah, thank you. Kevin, shifting for 3D to 5D is another way about talking about that for sure. And I appreciate the language of divine or innate intelligence. I
Yeah,
it exists. And
it
I think
exists.
AI just helps us awaken our own intelligence. That's what I think.
Yeah, even the simple of like if I were to rationalize it, I'll just go to the Heart Math Institute and look at brain heart coherence or Joe Dispenza's work. There's another way or doorway into connecting to the infinite spiritual divine intelligence that's with me. Or go into nature and forest bathe and just observe and breathe it in. Like there's so many different pathways up the mountain. The goal is not to abolish the mind because there's a lot of ego bashing too and mind bashing. And I gotta name. There's brain worship in this culture, 100%. That we are in this what we call a materialism culture that it needs to be proven by the scientific method. If it's not, then it's woo woo and it's fluffy. I'm gonna name it. It's actually that to connect to my divinity and my inner technologies, just to be present, meditate, breath work, whichever that gets me, yin yoga, that gets me into my body and just be with it. Instead of listening to what's out there, start listening to what's in here. Then I start building the connection between my mind and my heart. It's not to get rid of my ego, but for my ego to serve the divine intelligence within me, to have a healthy ego that's in service to life. My ego wants to work. It's here for a reason. It creates personas. It labels me as Dre. It has this idea of who I am. Great. Now let's use this persona to co create heaven on earth. That requires a connection to my heart, to divine intelligence. And that requires presence, slowing down. Be with yourself, be with myself.
And
Yeah.
if you can't, then there's others where you can co regulate and be in the presence of others. And this is where I truly believe if one person falters a little bit and the community or the village, right? It takes a village to heal a child and a village to heal an adult that wasn't raised in one. As we can all tap into the field of intelligence on a more consistent basis, our nervous systems all elevate, the field and also the veil between energy and what creates this physical realm becomes less woo woo and just more obvious.
Makes life so joyful. It makes life so magical and playful. Like it's a wonder to be alive, to witness the outdoors and wherever I go in awe. Why not?
Yeah, it makes life feel a lot more sensical, doesn't it? Used to, when we believe what we think, it makes no sense because we have no direct causal confrontation with everything and we try to fight things and nothing ever works. Everything feels like it works against us. But the instant we move into love and flow and the divine intelligence, oh man, so much easier. It's magical. It's like it was when we were children again.
So energizing.
Hmm. Yeah, and therefore the body also, all children with their energy and their positively, and there's no cortisol and adrenaline running constantly through their bodies. They're full of energy, and on the alkalinity scale, they're up there on an 8. Whereas, people with sorts of disease and negative thinking, they're really low, and also low on life energy. It's
Yeah.
all related.
I love it how it's all related and how simple it can be of moving away from, hey, I want to create, I want to build, I want to be productive, I want to do something with my life, I want to be useful, I want to be needed.
Mm.
100%. Hey, can I have a choice. Can I do it from shame based motivation, fear based motivation, or survival? The story of not good enough, the story of I'll show you, right? The story of like, oh, I need to prove to myself, or this care based motivation. which actually cares for myself and how I go about building, creating, how I care about others and the impact that I leave in the environment, etc., etc. One is so heavy. It works. It does get you done. It does, 100%. But comes with a cost. Imagine the stress and the cortisol that affects my
Mm.
body over long periods of time. How
No, I
what
don't want to
happens?
imagine that.
Yeah, what
No,
happens to
thanks.
this? What happens to this? What happens to this versus this other easeful way of co-creating and creating? Have you ever been in an environment where it's so highly energized, right? And I'll just name it. Network marketing, for example. I've been to network marketing presentations, groups of people excited on the vision. I'm just speaking to the vision
Mm.
of excitement, of creating a world of like, wow, abundance and joy. Everybody's like, yeah, it's not out of fear. That person's gone. They're going off and and when they speak to people, when they enroll in people, it comes from an inspired place. There's no convincing. It's vision casting. It's magnetic. It's like, yeah. What are we here to do? Why are we here? We're here to create joy, passions, our gifts, our talents, right? That's that care base, not that chain base. Such a clear delineation, right? So I'm like, wow,
Yep,
just
I
want to
want
land
more
in
of
there.
that. More of that. And thank you, Sophia. You're enjoying this dialogue. I'm curious where you're on Facebook. Where do you live? We are meeting. We are having Friday community gatherings in person in Edmonton, and we also have free workshops, and we talk every Friday
Mhm.
about how we can move into this state of divine intelligence through communication with each other, starting where we are, accepting what is, and moving from there. Because in the present moment, we connect both the past and the future. It's the only place that connects both places.
Mm.
And it's the place where we can overcome our trauma. And also, as Dre says, vision cast, do what makes us come alive into that needs based,
Yes.
life serving energy that
Yes.
motivates and sustains us. And that's universal. We all have the same ones, which makes it
Life
super
giving,
easy. Life giving.
contributions, service, co creating, leaving an impact, a positive impact, picking garbage up wherever you go, leaving things better off than you found it. Like when we all do that together, we tilt it. Tipping point.
Right. Yeah.
Shifts the vibration.
Kamloops. Someone else is in Kamloops. Is
Cool.
it Tim? Tim's in Kamloops too?
I know John Mark uh, came from Kamloops.
Yeah.
That's where it came through.
Cool.
But yeah, we're
Excellent.
gonna we're gonna hold it here, babe. Or do you have anything else to share?
I don't think so, unless I don't. Sophie, are you in our Get Resourced Facebook group? If you're not, and if you're on Facebook, come and have a look. Brooke, hey, nice to see you
Hey,
in here.
Brooke. Okay, I love that question. I love to answer it. I love to answer
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll lay the foundation here.
Yeah.
Um, Traditional therapy gets me stuck in the past, and I can just be immersed in the story, and all of a sudden that becomes my identity, and I get stuck. This perpetual state of healing. Traditional coaching gets me to focus on the future. Okay, and maybe too much of the future where I bypass what's in here, my past that's holding me back, like stored RAM and tabs. True transformation happens in all three time zones, and the action requires to be in the present moment. Meaning, I look at my past from a place of not woundedness, but a place of neutrality and gratitude and acceptance, genuinely of like, wow, thank you for this experience. What are the wisdom I learned from it that I can transmute in this present moment? Future casting is also needed too, to cast a North Star, a direction where I'm going. And then I take them all together and then move forward step by step. So true transformation happens across three time zone. Action happens in the present. Mind the gold in the past. Cast a vision for the future. Anything to add to that, babe?
Well, just to add that, yeah, why is in the present is because energy doesn't have time based reality. If it's in your body now, it's because of a pattern that was in the past. So if you address what's alive in you now, if you breathe into and accept, honor, and trust, meet the fear of what's in you, it moves, it transforms, it's universal law. And The only way you can create the future is by feeling it. Affirmations alone do not do that. Oh, I'm going to think my way out of something I felt my way into. You cannot do it. You cannot think your way out of what you felt your way into. The world is feeling based, it's energetic. And we
Yeah.
just don't understand how we
Mm.
access the intelligent field through how, and people do it through body sensations, emotions, images. And we're starting to learn how to use this conduit as the
You know,
powerful system that it is. Yeah.
yeah, you're
Mm.
right about that. That
About
actually
what?
the past is actually in the here and now.
Yeah, it is. It's right here. It's right
It's
now.
right here.
Energetically, it's right here. That's why
Yeah.
we can heal ourselves now. And it's like it never happened. The physical thing never happened because the energetic imprint disappears. The footprint is no longer there. And that's how we can heal, as they say in the Native American culture, 7 generations forward and 7 generations back. I think it might be even further than that. But what's alive in us is our emotions, is the way that our body shows up. We just don't know how to use universal law. Like Einstein says, energy can't be created or destroyed, only transformed. How do we use that in our body now? By facing fear each and every moment in that resistance and watching in 30 to 90 seconds, it shifts. Emotions don't stay unless we stay stuck in the story. They just shift in 30 to 90 seconds. That's all it takes. And that's what someone else said, right? We got to catch the stories and walk out of the stories and the programming and decide. It's a choice all the time. And that's why it's handy to have these conversations. And thank you so much for putting all of these questions in here today and participating because it makes it
There's
so
so much
rich.
life, rich,
It's
juicy.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just your presence, everyone. Like, thank you for being here with us. Adds so much to this conversation, the richness to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. So,
I'm very grateful.
mm,
And I felt you so much today, babe, in what you were speaking to. And the gratitude
yeah.
that I get to do it with you is so amazing.
Mm,
Ah,
yeah.
love her. Met summer through a commonality called Lynn. Lynn, maybe a person. Lynn. Beautiful people. Thank you
Hmm.
so much for today. We'll be back on next Friday. Send us a message if there's certain questions that you have. Put it in the Facebook group. If you haven't joined us, join it. Love to have you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Garcia, Julie, Jen, Noah, Kevin, Sophia, thank you for being with us today. Brooke,
Mm.
Reyes, great to see you. Until next time.
Oh, the community. I just love this. Hang on. There's one
No
more thing
worries.
Sophia is saying here. The mind can only conceive of what it can perceive. Right. The mind is only stuck in what it already knows. That's why Einstein says that the imagination is more important than knowledge. Because the imagination can create something new. And we've been taught that it's flaky and fluffy, but it's not. Imagination means the ability to form images in the mind's eye. And the thing is, we haven't been taught because athletes will use it to run a race, will use it to imagine something. But what we don't do is allow images to form in the mind's eye and also to transform. Our mind will play out like a movie for us to tell us the direction we need to go if we learn how to watch it and tap into divine intelligence. And it's something that we haven't quite been taught, but that we teach. And it is easy. It's much easier than we were ever taught. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes. Happy New Year.
Yes.
And we'll be back same time, same channel. Get resourced, 12 p.m. Mountain. And yeah, check out our Facebook group too. It's called Relational Wisdom Community. If you're not a part of it, that's where we list our upcoming events, free
Free
workshops,
workshops. You get to interact and have more of these conversations that
programs.
actually interrupt your own programs in your own body and start talking
Yep.
to all the parts inside yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah.
This was fun.
All right. Bye for now.